Register of Historic Places Nomination Subcommittee.
Great.
Roll call. Do we need roll call?
Yes, we will do a roll call. Chair Emily Dale.
Present.
Commissioner Amy Horn.
Present.
Commissioner Alicia Hayes.
Present.
Great.
And am I just automatically chair of this subcommittee, or do we need to elect someone else?
No, I just made you chair. I don't think we're going to have a ton of meetings for this.
It's fine. I just wanted to check and make sure we weren't missing something.
No, we could if we felt this standing committee, because once you've posted yourself here, we are supposed to be a standing committee. If we felt we were going to be meeting multiple times a year, we could select a separate chair.
I don't have an agenda in front of me, so Sarah, do you have a presentation on something?
Oh no, we have the land acknowledgement. I'm going to put the link to the agenda in the chat so everyone has it. Why don't I read the land acknowledgement? The Heritage Preservation Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacy, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. There's also a call to public comment, but the only person from the public here is the property owner, Mr. Barry Leviton. So I don't think.
And we will skip to general business.
Yes.
Sarah, what do you have for us on
Barry says hi to everyone.
Thank you for joining
us. Properties.
Yeah, so I guess the general business is just the listing of 101 and 103 North Leroux to the Flagstaff Register of Historic Places. The role of this subcommittee is to review this nomination and then to make a recommendation on the nomination at the December 18th Heritage Preservation Commission meeting. At the last Heritage Preservation Commission meeting, I went over the City Code 1-21, which is a portion of the code we have not used in many, many, many years, but we have dusted it off to make this meeting possible. The form that I prepared with the property owner is a abbreviated form based on the National Park Service Form 10-900. There really is a very limited set of requirements. It's like 6 bullets on what we actually have to include in a nomination for our local register. So this nomination form far exceeds the requirements. We do have also documented property owner permission. And of course, Mr. Leviton is present today to also offer any thoughts or feedback or answer questions he may know about the property. But we're basically here to review the listing. And if you want us to make changes to it before the 18th, that's totally acceptable. That's pretty much what's in your purview tonight. And then at the end, just make a motion on your recommendation.
Great. Do you have a presentation, or is there anything that the property owner would like to add?
I don't have a presentation. I can pull up the form. I figure if anybody has questions about it. Really, the history of the nomination here is that and I can give that briefly, is that in the 1980s, when the railroad addition was initially inventoried, this building had several modifications to it that made it a non-contributing building at that time. But subsequent property owners, including Mr. Leviton, have removed those non-conforming frontage improvements. And now the building looks much more like it did in 1924, when it was a mixed-use commercial space in the center of downtown. It also has been deemed eligible by the previous 2 historic preservation officers. And the reason that we've moved from just treating it as an eligible property within the downtown overlay, which is more than satisfactory from the city's perspective, to actually trying to list it on our local register, is that in 2020, FEMA changed the rules about what kinds of historic properties could receive the 50% improvement limit exemption, and made it so that those properties couldn't just be eligible, they actually had to be listed on a local, state, or national register. And so the fastest way to address that issue is to revive our local register. Anything we put on the local register could, of course, at a later date be added to the national register if the property owner so chose, because they would like to pursue federal grants or state tax breaks or any of those things. So that's my fast summary.
Oh, that's great. Commissioner Hayes?
Yeah, so does it need to be state or federal to get the tax breaks, or would local give the tax breaks?
Local gives the it's not a tax break. Yeah, you have to be state or federally listed.
Tax credit. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Tax credits, you have to be listed on the federal register. To get the state property tax reductions, you have to be on the state register. But the local register is sufficient to meet the FEMA requirements.
So this
Thank
listing is just to make sure that they don't lose their floodplain status thing. And then in future steps, they could request or put together a nomination for the national or the state register.
Correct. Yeah. And so that's kind of why I based the draft. I mean, I think this is a draft form because we don't have a standardized form for it. On the National Register paperwork, is because that would be the easiest path forward if the property owner so chose to do that.
Okay. Well, I would propose maybe just instead of just randomly asking questions, just going through each section and seeing if we have anything that we would like changed or added. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then if the property owner wants to chime in with any further information, they can do so.
Yeah, why don't we give Mr. Leviton a few minutes to speak while I pull up the Word version of what's in your packet so we can edit it.
Great. Mr. Leviton?
Sure. There's a little bit of confusion on my part because I thought it was on the historic registry of historic places when Judge and Sherry Magnum were putting all the bronze plaques, offering to put them on the buildings. I signed up for that, and that was stolen off of when it was Maloney's 20 some odd years ago. But the intent is always, I love the older properties, and anything I can do to make them more like they originally were, I go ahead and do. And it's got a history that's integral to downtown Flagstaff. It's almost in every powwow picture from 1926, I think was the first one that I've been able to find. Any questions you have, I'll be happy to try to answer.
I have a question for Sarah. So I pulled up from the city's webpage the Railroad Edition, and this building is not included in this. And I'm trying to remember from the previous commission meeting, the boundary of the Railroad Edition purposely is the way that it is not to include this building. Is that correct?
I think it's because at the time this was a non-contributing building because
yes, yeah,
it sort of had like some wooden thing, like wooden like mansard roofing and other things that had been added after JCPenney had vacated the building. And it looked very different in the 80s. The 80s picture of it as a non-contributing picture in the full inventory, it just doesn't, it's very dark, so it's hard to see the details, but it doesn't look anything like it looks today or anything like it looks in those historic photos that Mr. Leviton mentioned. Yeah, I think a lot of people thought this was listed and thought this was in the Railroad Edition for a long time. And so this audit clearly has brought this to light. And now we can at least get it moved forward on the local register.
If I may
And-
throw in, I'm sorry.
Go right ahead.
The entire wall along Aspen was stuccoed over. And looking at some of the 1926 pictures, I saw the arched windows. And when Maloney's left, I ripped out the inside walls and found those arched windows still there, in place. And with one finger, lifted the window, and the counterweight came down. So that the arches around the windows have been improved. They're current technology. The prior windows were basically very poor, probably rattled, wind could blow through it. But the intent was followed through, that all those windows had arches. Those arches were enhanced a little bit in the recent redo. Again, saw what it had looked like originally and tried to get back to that.
So you've restored the property more towards its period of significance then and what its original construction was?
Yes, thank you. Yes, exactly.
I think especially the condition of the building at the time the railroad addition was created. I think for this application, I did not write that we were redrawing the railroad addition because that's already a national registered district. And I think that's maybe more something we should propose if the property owner would like to take this to the state and federal process. That would be more, I think that would be a better time to say like, hey, let's move the district boundary and include this, because I do think it's contributing. It's just a matter of, do we want to have a local boundary for the railroad addition that's different than the national one?
So can I ask one more question? So we're considering this as individually listed, but was there an amendment to the original railroad edition, and when was that? What is the date on the most recent inventory for the railroad edition? Do you know?
I
offhand?
do. Let me
Is it
look.
the 80s? Because I found one for 1983.
Yes. No, but there was a later edition, but I think the later edition was in the early 90s.
So it still probably could be looked at again for the railroad edition, and that maybe be able to, I mean, it's outside of this. It might be worth looking at to see if there needs to be an amendment to the railroad edition itself, in which case this property likely would be included in that. But this meeting is strictly for this as an individual property.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, I've pulled up the form. I'm happy to make any changes you like to the name, or there's a lot of different names associated with this property over time. So I think I picked JCPenney's on N Leroux because it was very obviously JCPenney's for the longest standing tenant of the building.
And the most recognizable name.
Right, and the most recognizable name. But it is true that there was a different JCPenney's as well on N Leroux before JCPenney's moved to the mall, that was built later. So thoughts on that?
Is there just a timeline somewhere in this that like lists like when the building was, because I didn't really find one, when the building was built, like when it was the pay and take it, when it was the JCPenney's?
I don't know that I have precise dates. There's never been a full cultural resource study prepared on this property.
But even if there's something general, like sometime before it was a JCPenney, it appears to have been built sometime in the late 1800s. Then it became
we have the original construction date.
Okay.
Was it evaluated originally for the railroad edition? Because I noticed there was a reference someplace about the inventory documentation that the city had that. So if it was looked at, it might be in there.
It's not.
Okay.
It said in 1924 is the construction date. It had a brothel upstairs, and the first floor, I think, was the pay and ticket at that time. J.C. Penney's moved in later.
Okay.
And occupied it until 1963. That's when they moved out. It got heavily altered between 63 and 84.
Okay.
I think 84 is when Maloney's moved in. And then
No,
Maloney's
moved in 1996, 4 or 6.
Okay, 4 or 6.
It was a furniture store. There was another market, and I can't remember the name right now. I have a picture of it dug out from NAU archives. That was after J.C. Penney. It was another marketplace, another general store, and then it was a furniture store.
Yeah, it had a Scottish name, didn't it?
McMahon's.
McMahon's, you're right. I think that was correct. But I did put specialty store furniture as one of the historic functions. I can add McMahon's.
It might be nice
when McMahon's moved out, that's when I bought the building in 92, 94, and moved in the 2 restaurants that were there for a while.
It might be nice to have a picture from the 60s just to prove or demonstrate how different it looks.
I'd be happy to try to put together that chronology with pictures, and Sarah, I can get that out to you hopefully later this week.
Yeah, that would be great. I think because we've never done a cultural resource study on this property, I think you have more of that information than I do.
Okay. Sorry, that was my one question about the name.
Yeah, so I pieced together what I could of the timeline. If we can fill it in a little more, maybe we can just do that as an addendum to this application and keep it rolling.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't know if it was just all in one place as opposed to, piecing it together between different sections, but that's fine.
No, everything's scattered all over the place, and it's a chore to pull together, but I should have most of it and be happy to do that.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments on questions 1, 2, or 3?
Did I pick the right criteria? I'm pretty sure it should be C, correct?
Yeah, there's no one famous who owned it, or like the woman who built it, like she's not important to...
I thought the current owner was sort of famous.
Sally, you don't count.
Significance.
Is it famous or infamous, Barry?
I had a question about that because later on it describes in the narrative statement of significance, it talks about criterion C, which is the architecture, but then it also talks about local significance, which would, to me, kind of goes into criterion A, which is, broad themes of American history for the national ones. But I wanted to just ask other folks what their opinion was, because to me, it kind of sounded like it might be under significant under an A and C.
Yeah, I could see A if you're looking at like the growth of Flagstaff as, sort of a hub of the area. So it gets the J.C. Penney. Right. You've got like growing mass consumerism at the sort of end of World War I and beginning of World War II.
Yeah, most of these are usually, C is usually like Mary Coulter, right? It's not just, some local architect. It's usually something is the work of a master. Frank Lloyd Wright's buildings are always C.
I could see C because of the argument that it is one of a few Hispanic revival or whatever the
Spanish colonial revival.
Spanish colonial revival in a town in the Southwest.
Yeah, I agree with C, especially if we're looking at local significance. It's not a national listing, it's a local listing. But it is, I think it is significant for architecture.
Yeah, I think A, we could also make a case for A.
We can add A to the listing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you were to take this to the I can't even find who the architect is. I'd love to know if anybody's got good ideas on how to research that better. As someone who's not a historian, that's not my forte. I might stick Lauren on it when she starts on Monday. Any chance you can figure out who the architect of this building was? And but I don't think it doesn't particularly seem like it was anyone of renown. But for local, it is that there's two significant buildings of this architectural style that bookend the downtown, and this is this is one of those two. Sorry, go ahead, Barry. Were you jumping in?
When you had asked me if I knew the architect, I did a little bit of research, didn't get anywhere. Be happy to also continue that search.
Yeah, I think that if we find that, that's an important detail to the application, especially if you had any interest in taking it to the state sites committee.
I'll continue looking.
Yeah, and I'll ask Lauren. Lauren Clementino is our new historic preservation officer, and she starts next Monday. And that'll be one of the things I ask her to do. She's an actual historian, so she might be better at it than me.
And me.
It's teamwork. That's what's going to make this happen. All right. So I jumped past the material on the first part, and we've just got section 7s. This is private ownership. It's just buildings. I listed both 101 and 103 North Leroux. 103 North Leroux actually also has 2 addresses on Aspen, so those are part of the address listing as well. And then for historic functions and uses, I've listed specialty furniture, McMahon's, department store, JCPenney's, residence apartments. And then the current function is the first floor is a restaurant on 103. That's an open restaurant. The second floor of 101 is apartments. The first floor of 101 facing Leroux is a vacant restaurant, retail, and then there's a bar lounge on 101 on the first floor facing Aspen, which is pay and take.
That it was the market?
Yeah, I had the same comment.
Past functions.
Yeah, I have the same thought on number 5, on our historic functions.
Just because you listed it above.
What kind of category do you think that is? Is it just a department store?
General store?
Just a general store.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
One in retail. I tried to look into their history a little bit, and I didn't get very far. But there was one in Phoenix, and the Arizona Archives has a picture of the Phoenix Pay and Take It. So I don't know if it was a local chain or
like a small state chain.
I don't know. Again, I couldn't find much information, but I didn't look very far. But that might be interesting too.
Would you like me to add anything else to that section of historic functions? Okay, so yeah, architectural classification is Spanish colonial revival. The principal exterior materials are brick, stucco, metal, and glass. We wrote a brief narrative description.
I found an article about pay and tickets. Sorry.
Oh, I just had a question. The first sentence of the summary paragraph, it says, so there's the 2 properties, 101 and 103, and it says it was pay and take it market, and then it was combined to become JCPenney. So do we know, like, originally 101 and 103, one of them was pay and take it, and the other one was something else? Is that the history as we know it?
I don't think so.
So it was always one.
I'll look at pictures tomorrow. The pay and take it market was across the entire, looks like it was across the entire front of Leroux. which would be
Okay.
encompassing 101 and 103.
Okay, yeah, the way it was originally worded, I wasn't sure. But I think that the way it is in the new one is, that document looks good.
It's a
Yeah, I
really
think that-
big, thick cement wall that's there between the two addresses right now. But again, I'll double check the pictures tomorrow.
Yeah, the two buildings, my understanding from the previous applications were that they were, the wall that Mr. Leviton's referencing was built in 1963 to divide the space.
Oh, okay. So it's originally one. Got it.
It was originally one, and then they took that wing over of what now is 103, and they separated it out.
Okay.
Anything on the narrative description then? Can hop down to the next page. So we decided A and B significance. It didn't have any criteria considerations. I put the areas of significance as architecture and commerce. Is there anything else I should add to that?
Residential? I said that as a question mark. Feel free to disagree.
No, I agree. I think that's a good catch.
And the northern apartments have some of the best views of the peaks.
Oh, nice.
I bet they do. You can probably see the church and everything, and the clock tower from there too, historically.
Why 1939?
I don't know. That's just what it had in previous applications.
Okay.
I think
okay. Just for the area.
I was going to say, is that the railroad district's
Downtown.
period?
Might be.
Because the building's not built till 1924.
Yeah.
To 26, yes.
So maybe, does that need an explanation? Like, this fits within the downtown railroad additions period of significance for this.
Yeah, I can put that in. The official name is the Flagstaff Railroad Edition. If I can type this late, I've used all my finger button pressing for the day.
Especially the Monday after a holiday.
Yes. And I mean, if I were to look at significance for the building, it would probably be 1924 to 1963.
I think we should put
Yeah.
that, because this is not part of that district at this point, and it's really about this particular building.
Yeah.
Can we put both? I mean, I think it makes sense to
Yeah.
contextualize. If we're saying it's local to the important downtown economic hub, we should probably include those dates.
Yeah, I agree. I think put both of it down.
And then I just put the significant dates as 1924 and 1963. Those both fit in it. Those were dates
So,
where there was changes to the
construction.
properties.
J.C. Penney leaving.
Yeah. We don't have to put any significant person because we didn't mark criterion B.
Ow.
I don't think there's
Or
any
Madam
known
Lulu.
cultural affiliation. Were there any of the previous property owners, Barry, like significantly involved in some kind of particular culture, like the Knackards or Persian you know, anything like that
I
should
don't
be of
think
note?
so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
White people have culture, Sarah. But as a grocery store and a market, it's for everybody. So
Yeah, it wasn't like the building on South San Francisco that was the Mexican grocery.
no, I'm just saying, like, I'm assuming you could put Euro American for that.
Yeah, we could just put Euro American.
But I wouldn't, because anyone could. Was the store like segregated or something? Because then it's not just for Euro Americans; it's for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ownership of the building was Euro American.
Okay.
It was owned by a bank for some time too. Must have been like an investment property or something.
I don't know when that would be.
Yeah, it was before you. Other buildings, you know, I talk about it in context of the Monte Vista and how it was frequently photographed. I did not write a narrative for criteria A, but we probably need to add that here since we've decided we should add that a little bit.
I feel like your next paragraph covers
Some of
criteria.
that.
Yeah, that's what made me think criteria A was actually that local significance paragraph.
And Sarah, when you say the building was frequently photographed, you mean Leroux, right? Because right now it reads like you're talking about the Monte V.
Yeah, the building, I mean Leroux.
Okay. So just, I don't know. Oh, yeah. That solves it.
You can just move that down here.
The frontage along Leroux was often photographed in many of the powwow pictures.
And the Aspen rear end of the building too.
I'm sorry, along Aspen. Sorry.
Yeah, but there are some pictures of the front on Leroux as well that show it was part of community events, and it was just in a great central location. So still is.
Do we want to highlight any of the parts here in Criterion C that like really make it Spanish colonial revival?
Sure.
And the parts of it that are still existing? I mean, I think you maybe touched on them.
Yeah, there's an ornamental lintel around the upstairs windows, and the entrance to the upstairs.
Off of Aspen.
Yeah. There's the arched window spaces downstairs. Anything else you'd want to highlight? The stucco, yeah.
I need an architect.
What was that?
I said I need an architect to tell me what Spanish revival features are.
Yeah, Spanish revival is the tile roofs and the smooth stucco and like the ornamentalness of the like of the windows and treatments on the building.
See, they also mention Google also mentions wrought iron detailing. So I'm wondering about the little balcony or faux balcony on the on the Leroux facade.
Anything else you'd like to see us add to this section?
Sarah, for criterion A, did you ever find the evidence that I keep remembering in my head that there is a mural underneath the wall on Aspen?
Not at this particular building. Barry, do you know if there's a mural under stucco?
I swear
No,
they
there
found
wasn't.
one and then stuccoed over it again.
No, not that I recall. And there was talk of adding a mural, but that never progressed.
It wasn't like a mural, it was like a historic advertisement.
Like
That
a
when they were
ghost sign?
redoing the facade somewhere
that was-
downtown. I remember Mark talking about it. And then I saw it.
There were some things along Leroux from the old furniture companies.
Maybe that's what it was. That might be nice. Like the building was also used as advertising for.
Well, it was the name of the furniture company. I have
Okay.
that picture that I can pull up.
Okay,
Send
maybe
you.
that's what I'm thinking of then.
Yeah, when we were redoing it for Maloney's, yeah, that stuff was underneath
Okay.
covered stucco,
Okay.
the latest
I mean,
stucco.
I guess that's probably out of the period of significance, but it is in line with the trend
Yeah.
of just like painting your business name on the side of the building instead of getting a sign. Okay, I'm not crazy then.
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
That was a couple years ago. I think that was like before COVID when they were first renovating that building and the steakhouse was going to move in. So it's been a while.
Anything else you would like me to add to the criterion and the local significance? Okay, my bibliographic references are really the previous applications, and I can add anything here that Mr. Leviton contributes as we're working on it this week. There, and some of that information was pulled from NAU. We
What's
have not
120 North Leroux?
Oh, it's an adjacent building that's also
Okay.
kind of part of this frontage.
Okay. Cool.
They have also submitted some previous stuff, and it sometimes had information about the adjacent buildings here.
I was just looking up about the pay and take it in the Pine, advertisements in the Pine. It said Safeway store, so I looked up the history of Safeway. And Safeway started as a chain of different stores, and one of the chains they had was pay and take it.
Yeah, I found an
So that was
article in the Spokane Review on the history of pay and take it, and I sent it to Sarah. It's like it was
Yeah, I saw
a
that one
regional
too.
chain that started in Idaho.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you look up the Wikipedia history of Safeway, they have that they had 24 pay and take it stores in Arizona at that time. They were known as a safe way to shop because they didn't allow credit at times when people at a time when people were getting into debt to stores.
But that is, I think, another piece of evidence that Flagstaff was seen as sort of a central area in northern Arizona if they're getting this sort of national grocery chain.
So I wonder up there in the section under historic uses, instead of general store, we should put grocery store for pay and take it.
Yeah.
Go up.
If only there was still a grocery store downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, do we want to put in there somewhere that the neighboring building has, I mean, is that what the pay and take is named after, or is that just a coincidence?
No, I think it's what it's named after. And it's
So
not
that
an adjacent building, it's part of this building. Like, so
Okay.
here's the
Yeah.
1948 Sanborn. The area that we call pay and
Yeah.
take today was the beauty shop in the
Oh,
back.
that's so cute.
So that
Do we need to
current pay
include
and
that
take,
stuff?
they revived that name, huh?
Should we put like that in there? That like, in addition to the building, the name is still like, do we need to put that it was a beauty shop in 1948? If we're pulling the significance through in 1963?
We could put the beauty shop in. I don't think it particularly matters that a different business has adopted a historic name. I don't think that's relevant necessarily, but
Okay.
we could list the beauty shop.
Well, thank you. I've looked at a lot of the Sanborn maps. I never caught that before.
There you go. And then just to see. So the photographs I've provided of the building are basically Google Street Views, which you can see the little balcony. And this is the ornamental work. There's some over here over the apartment entrance. The historic windows are down here, and these are the newer windows that fill in those spaces and the transoms. This is 103, which you can see the line and the bricks are all carried forward across this. This is a much simpler frontage, of course. And there's the 1920s photo that I do have, and I'm sure, Barry, you've got many, many others, but you can see the transom is here. You can see the ornamentations there and all these arched windows, some of which Mr. Leviton was able to keep and some of which got more opened up as the windows were not there to save. And this is probably from the 60s. So you can see it's starting to get stuccoed over in the 60s. And the frontage looked very different, right? They had modernized it a little. And here's that back end of the building where Pay and Take is right now in a powwow photo. Probably these photos are not up to National Register standard, but I left them for our local. I don't think we have a high Habs hair kind of documentation requirement.
And Barry, it sounds like you have some other photos you found.
Yes, and I'll pull those up and get those to you, Sarah.
That'll be great.
I love historic photos. So excited.
Right. So that's what's available in the application right now, and happy to add anything that anyone can provide that we've done for this conversation. I can add a little bit about what Pay and Take It was to some of the commerce section material.
Yeah, I sent you an article.
Yes, I saw it.
Seemed a little comprehensive.
Is there anything else you wanted to look at?
No, I think this is a good, for what information we have and are able to find in this short amount of time that we have. I think it's a great contribution.
Yeah, I would just say I appreciate what you've done, Mr. Leviton, to restore it and make it eligible again over the years with all the renovations that have taken place.
I'd like to second that.
Yeah, it's nice to.
I was going to say it's very, very noticeable when you look back at the 60s and the 80s photos, how much work Mr. Leviton has put into it. And being exempted from the floodplain regulations, which we're helping to ensure it can continue to do, is part of what's made that possible.
Yes, thank you for restoring it back to its historic period.
I think we ought to work on getting you a new plaque.
I thought I had a picture of it. I'll try to find what it said originally.
So, yeah, the next,
especially when it gets listed. I was just going to say, especially when it gets listed.
Yeah.
If you want us to send out, if this does get listed again, and you'd like us to send out a little press release on it, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
So Sarah, next steps are this committee makes a recommendation to approve this nomination, or not approve, I guess we could probably not say. And then you finish up this version and it goes to the committee next week. And then we have like a final discussion of this committee recommends this. And does anyone else have anything? And we vote.
Yeah, I think tonight you do have to make a motion that you're recommending listing the properties. And then with edits as discussed during the meeting, and then Mr. Leviton and I can work on the last few changes to the application this week. I then would send it to you by next Wednesday or Thursday when I usually send out the agenda. And then we'd have this discussion with the rest of the commission members.
Great. Any last bits of conversation or comments or anything from anyone before we move on to motions? All right, Sarah, do you have a recommended motion for us to make this recommended motion?
Nope, you can make it however you see fit.
Amy or Alicia, well, one of you, I don't think I'm allowed to make motions.
Yeah, I move that we recommend adding the property at 101 and 103 North LaRue to the Flagstaff listing of historic properties to be considered at the next meeting of the Flagstaff Heritage Preservation Commission.
Sarah, does that work? Sarah, does that work?
Yeah, I think okay. Can I give Commissioner Hayes the second?
I second that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Horn and a second from Commissioner Hayes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion passes and the subcommittee officially approves moving this nomination for approval to the full Heritage Preservation Commission.
Yes, and I think that's everything for your agenda tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thanks again for putting this all together and being part of the first addition to the Flagstaff Register of Historic Places in however long.
Well, thank you to Mr. Leviton for helping me pull it together very quickly.
Thank you all for all of this. Terrific.
Yeah. All right.
Great. So we'll see
everyone
on the 18th.
2 weeks. Well, actually, before that, right? Because we've got
on Monday.
Yeah, we have a field trip on the 16th.
Yeah,
not related to this agenda, and then we have this meeting on the 18th.
Okay.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
I call this meeting adjourned at 5:54 p.m.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.